hopefully that will fix it. Hopefully you can hear me now, so let me know in the comments if you can hear me now. I think you should be able to. Apologies for that. It was a little bit of a lastminute.com. Do let me know if that is fixed for you guys. A little bit of a different setup today. I've got the laptop up here. Fingers crossed. Do let me know in the chat if you can hear me now. That would be really good. Really helpful to know if you can hear me. But yes, perfect. You can hear me. Excellent stuff. So yeah, just wanted to do a really kind of very informal little iCaveAnswers type session. We've got a couple of questions that have come in from the audience, so we will jump into those. I know this is a little bit of a weird angle, but let's do it. So the first question that we had actually from the comment section is from, I don't know why I can't read this, GLP for info, asking if the M2's bestseller was the MacBook Air 15-inch, which absolutely not, as far as I'm aware. I think the best-selling M2 machine was probably the original 13-inch MacBook Air, and I would probably put money on that staying as the best-selling M2 machine for quite some time. M3 is a bit of a confusing mess at the minute. We've done a video on this recently where we were talking about how it may be 3nm, it may be 5nm still. We don't quite know yet. And the confusion, the idea that the 13-inch MacBook Air would get updated before the 15-inch just makes absolutely no sense to me. The only reason I could see that happening is if they've just mass-produced a bunch of the 15s and not been able to shift them, but as far as I know, they've sold quite nicely. I think the 15-inch is selling well. I just don't think it's going to sell as well as the 13-inch because in the vast majority of cases, everyone that buys Macs, you're probably going to get 60 to 70% of people that buy just the base model, like the starting price. That's my thought on it. I think that's probably the most likely thing because most people do want to just move into like the cheapest that they can get. Let's have a quick look at what we've got over here. So Ron Matson is asking, have you had any problems with the Sonoma beta or the iOS 17 beta? Now, Sonoma I've got just on Project 91, which is the Macintosh Classic with the Mac Mini inside it. I don't use that on my main machine, on the M2 MacBook Air, but not because there's been any issues with it, and by all accounts it's been very, very stable. I've literally only put it on there to do some testing and so I can play around with the features. It's not like a full-time production machine, so I couldn't really tell you about bugs on that. I've not encountered any myself, and as far as I know, everyone has been saying that it is pretty stable, pretty reliable, and I might well actually bump the M2 Air up to Sonoma as well. What I have heard recently, though, is that there's been all sorts of problems with the latest update to Final Cut, so that's a little bit awkward for Apple. Apparently that's crashing an awful lot right now. In terms of iOS 17, which is probably a little bit more kind of general for people, it's there's definitely more people out there using iPhones than there are using Macs. I would say that it's been very stable. I think there have been a few little glitches. There's been things like the F1 racing game hasn't been loading particularly well. That's taken either forever or just kind of hangs. But other than that, I've had a couple of issues with like keyboards jumping up over the rest of the display, so you can't see the text field that you're writing into. But normally that's in iMessage, and you can just go out of iMessage and come back in, and it fixes it. So there's been nothing critical. There's been no big issues with it as far as I'm seeing. So yeah, it's been very, very stable. And actually, I think people had more problems with the iOS 16.6 general release. When I was talking to David from David Talks Tech the other day, he was saying that doing the update overnight automatically kind of disabled his iPhone in terms of like login. It seems to... The only thing that it sounds like is that it basically kind of reset his 6-digit PIN or his 4-digit PIN that you unlock the phone with, which is a little bit awkward. He had to do a full reset of the phone in order to get that working. But that's 16.6, and that was the public release. That's not even a beta. Whereas iOS 17, as far as I know, has been, I mean, for me, absolutely solid as a rock. I've got 16 on my work phone, and then I've got 17 on my personal phone, which kind of makes the most sense. But yeah, anyone got any other questions you want me to address? I'm not planning on doing a full hour live stream today. We're probably going to wrap this up about past, so about 23 minutes or so still to go. There's still plenty of time, but do let me know if you've got any questions that you would like me to address. Otherwise, I'm going to have a quick look at some of the later news, because I haven't had a chance to look myself today. We'll pop over to Mac Rumors, because they are normally pretty good at keeping up with these. The usual stuff, iPhone 15 is getting thinner bezels, and that's causing delays. I guess we've already kind of covered this a little bit, I think, in the regular videos. So yeah, these slightly thinner bezels, does anyone actually care? It seems like it's one of these things that tech reviewers and people like me get incredibly excited about. Not me personally, because I don't really care. I'm not going to be buying this one. But yeah, I mean, thinner bezels, great. An extra 0.1 of an inch in a device the same size, yeah, it's good. Wouldn't make me upgrade like a year early to get that. How about you guys? Is it something that like really excites you? I think, yeah, we are getting better cameras. We are getting the usual stuff. Apparently this action button thing is perhaps a thing that's replacing the mute switch, so it could have more uses. What do you think about that? Is that something that you're excited about? Let me know in the chat. Let's have a look. So iOS 16.6 was no problem on my iPad or phone. That's from Ron. Oh, that's cool. Great stuff. Yeah, as far as I know, Dave is the only person that I know that's had this issue with it. However, when he spoke to Apple support, it sounded like they had a bit of a canned response ready, so I don't think he's the only person. I haven't seen any other reports about it online, but if you guys see anything about that, do let me know. Let's have a look if there's anything else going on over here. So obviously the Vision Pro developer kits have now gone out to developers, and they are locked down. They're locked down pretty hard. By all accounts, they've kind of got like AirTag tech built in, so Apple can see where they've gone. I think Apple is kind of tracking them using like a U1 chip inside, which is interesting. They're not allowed to leave the premises that they've been sent to. When they're not in use by the authorized developer, they're supposed to be locked away in like a Pelican case, which I think Apple provides as well. If you don't know what the Pelican cases are, they're the big kind of flight case things that Apple sends out their tools in for the Apple repair program and that kind of thing as well. Oh. Apparently we're having a little bit of video issues. I'm just going to check in on what's going on here, if there's anything that I can do on this side. I don't think there is. But yeah, let me know if it's looking horrific for you guys. Hopefully not. And I'm not sure why this computer does not want me to have two windows open at the same time. That's very strange. But there we go. Yeah, so that's the issue that we're having on that side of things. Do let me know in the chat if the video is actually going bad. It looks like it's okay on this side, but I'm not sure. YouTube is telling me that it's not working properly, but we'll see. It may just have been because I was loading other web pages up. New autocorrect stuff, we know about all of this. Hidden AirTags, Vision Pro developer kits. Yeah, that's what I was talking about already. So developer kits are being kind of tracked with AirTags to make sure that they're not getting into the wrong hands. I'm sure that some of them will end up on YouTube somehow. I'm sure somebody will be able to get to one of these developers. But of course, those AirTags will also basically be able to tell you which other iPhones have been nearby, I think, if Apple wants to go down that route and keep an eye on who's nearby. That would be an interesting kind of privacy breach, which I don't think Apple would want to do, but they might be keeping an eye on stuff. I don't know, behind the scenes. Let me know your thoughts. Do let me know if this video is working for you guys, because YouTube seems to be throwing me all kinds of errors right now, which is worrying. Yeah, not quite sure what's happening. I'm just going to jump over to Twitter in case anyone has been trying to speak to me. That's strange. I think Safari is having a problem, because I've just gone into Twitter, and when I press on the notifications tab, it's downloading things. Very strange. Very strange. It's downloading HTML files rather than going into the page. But that just could be Elon Musk and his band of merry developers having a poor day. Again, that's quite possible because obviously they're having all sorts of problems. Right. So let's get back to your questions over here. So Ron is asking, what are your plans for the Luxo iMac on the desk? So we have shot already an unboxing video of this bad boy. So this is the 17-inch. And it's working like perfectly right now. I've been able to connect it to the internet, so it is connecting to Apple's like time servers and things like that. But I don't have a browser on it because the browser that comes with it by default is Internet Explorer, which is obviously very much depreciated, as this is like a 2002 Mac running 10.2, I think. So it basically can access almost no websites at this point because this is the problem. Every website basically thinks it's an insecure browser, so it won't send it anything. So I need to try and get something like iCav on there, and then I can maybe get it up to, I don't know, we could probably get it up to Tiger, maybe Leopard. I think this would capably run Leopard. It is a 800 megahertz system, so it's a G4 chip. You know, it's not incredibly fast, but it's very, very smooth. Like, you know, all of the good stuff like the magnification is smooth as you like. It's got iMovie on it. It's got iPhoto on it. It's got a whole bunch of fun little bits that you can play with. But yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a practical computer. I'm not at the moment planning to rip out the guts of it and replace it with Apple Silicon, but the thought has crossed my mind. I'm not going to lie. Hi, Ollie. My eldest son has just joined us. So yeah, I'm not planning to pull out all of the guts out of it and kind of replace it with Apple Silicon at this point. Trying to get this panel to work with anything other than the system that it's built into is going to be an absolute nightmare. You have to basically cut all of the cables, convert it over to like a DVI connector. I think DVI is the one that you're able to do from the cabling that's in there, and then you would convert that to like an HDMI or a USB-C port, and then plug that into some. Yeah, it's going to be nightmarish, to be honest, if I wanted to use this panel. The other option, of course, is that you can take that panel off, replace it perhaps with a more modern panel on the inside, if I can find maybe a 1080p panel or something along those lines that is the right size. That would be interesting, because then that will probably have its own controllers and things that are built into it, and could potentially, you know, we could just connect that to HDMI, and that might be easier. But it's a good panel. Like, it's 1440 across, I think, by like 900, something like that, 920, 1440 by 920, something like that. But yeah, it's a nice panel, and it looks quite crisp still, and I don't believe that I would get this system put back together in such a nice looking package. It's a 17-inch as well, so it's not quite as common as the 15-inch iMacs that came out around the same time. But it is certainly more common than the 20 inches, which seem to be going for around about £1 still. I only paid £28 for this, and it was boxed. So we've done the unboxing video. That is going to be coming up soon. I'm going to be away from the studio for the next week. I will still try and get some content out. Do need to finish off the series we've been doing on VR with the Pico VR headsets. That's been really fun to play around with, but it's not the easiest thing to make content about, because once you've talked about how it tracks your head and how it moves, you know, everything works together, it's difficult to kind of come up with new stuff. So if there's anything that you guys are interested in around VR, I don't know if you guys have used VR before, if you've got any questions about that, please do hit me up, because it would be great to do like a Q&A on Vision, not Vision Pro, but on the Pico headset. I've really enjoyed using it. I've got to say, but yeah, that would be tremendous if you guys have got any questions on that. And if you've got anything else that you want me to talk about, I'm not 100% sure what is going on with this stream right now. YouTube is still saying that it's having dramas with my stream, but it also looks like it seems to be working. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. Yeah, difficult one. Any other news that you guys have seen that you're interested in me having a quick chat about? Let's have a look on Supercharged and see what the guys have been chatting about over there. See if there's anything exciting that's been going on. Oh, we've got things like the Apple Card stuff that's been going on recently. So Apple and Goldman Sachs seem to have fallen out a little bit. I think Goldman Sachs seems to have lost like $1 billion by doing this whole thing. Hello there, Thomas. How are you? Good evening from Stuttgart. Good evening from Birmingham. Goldman Sachs have lost $1 billion by doing the Apple Card. But from what I understand, that's kind of what would be assumed over the first couple of years, and then you make your money back over time, because obviously at the beginning you're lending out a bunch of stuff, and then over time you make your interest back, and you get your repayments. So that kind of makes sense. But it seems that Apple is looking to potentially replace Goldman Sachs, or Goldman Sachs is looking to replace themselves, and it looks like the company that's in the running for it is American Express, which I'm sure is fine in America, but if you were to come over to the UK, obviously they don't do the Apple Card in the UK at this point, but if they were to do an Amex in the UK, Amex is like 50-50 whether places accept it or not, because the fees are really high for merchants to accept it, so a lot of places just don't. So that would be interesting if they decide to go that way or not. Michael Moy, banking in the US has been in turmoil this year. Well, yeah, I think it has around the world, to be honest. Our interest rates have gone up quite a bit. The Bank of England base rate, because they're trying to kill the inflation that we've been having, I think we're still sitting around about 7%. Not that we're here to talk finance in general, but I think it's kind of relevant when we've got this stuff going on with Apple as well. So I would say that there's a lot going on over there. Oh, John Malkin's saying Nat West. Yeah, to be honest, I couldn't care less whether they cancelled Farage's account. Doesn't bother me at all. But yes, it's been a bit of a fiasco over here because they've not really been following the rules. Obviously, Galaxy have had their event. So they've got number 5 Fold, and they've got a new Flip, and they've got a new tablet. And does anyone care? I don't care. I don't think there's anything exciting about it. Even the Samsung people have been saying now they feel like Apple because they're just doing these iterative updates, and it's like, well, yes, because they kind of know what to put in a phone or a tablet or even a foldable now. There's not that much to change on a yearly basis. You're not going to reinvent it. One of the things that I think that Apple may go along the lines of doing is potentially moving one of the camera lenses down towards the bottom of the phone. And let me know in the comments if you can work out why that would be. I'll leave it for 5 minutes and I'll come back to you. If you can tell me why Apple would move one of the lenses from the top of the phone to the bottom of the phone, let me know what they might do. But yeah, the Samsung stuff just kind of seems a bit dull. Nobody seems to be particularly excited about them, but I might be a little bit biased anyway. All right, let's see what the chat's saying. Michael Moy saying American Express is accepted by far fewer places than Visa and MasterCard. Oh, is that the case in the US as well? Fair enough. Yeah, I thought that was just a UK and internationally thing, that people were less inclined to take American Express because you get never declined, but unless they don't take it at all. Right, let's see. So Apple Card is not yet available in Germany either. No, I believe it's only in the US at the moment. I don't even think it's gone to Canada. Could be wrong. Correct me in the chat if I am wrong. Evan Rogers is here. Hey, how are you doing, pal? Good to see you. The internet seems to have sorted itself out now. I'm getting excellent connection according to YouTube, which is a win because apparently it was crapping out a little bit earlier on. So, who was it that had $3 billion in profit? Was it, trying to line this up, NatWest. Oh, yeah. So, NatWest did really well, financially, and then fired all of their bosses because of someone that was an idiot getting his account cancelled. So, what can you do? Not a lot. Any guesses yet in the chat about why we might put one of the camera lenses down at the bottom of the phone? Answers on a postcard, please. The taxpayer will get 190 million to pay back the bailout. Oh yeah, I suppose, yeah, because NatWest is like 30-something%, 40, around 40% UK government owned or taxpayer owned, because they had to bail them out before. Yeah. Michael Moy is saying, I don't like the trend towards larger and heavier phones. To be fair, I think we all kind of got to the point where phones were getting thinner and lighter, and then we were complaining that the battery life wasn't going to be as long, and that you couldn't... I mean, if you go thinner on the phone and you don't have the bulky lens bump, then your images are not going to look as good. That's just physics, because obviously you've got to be able to kind of... the more distance you can have between your lens layers, your lens elements, the better your image is going to look, basically, which is why telephoto lenses that sit on cameras are huge. Yeah, I mean, this is why I think the folding phones as well, in general, don't have as good cameras. I think it's mainly because they haven't got the depth there to allow it. There's also why laptop cameras, never that good. Continuity camera, best thing ever. Let's see what we got. What's the big new feature expected for the Series X watch? As far as I know, they're just going to actually put an actually new chip in it for once. The Series 7, 8 and 9 have all basically had the same processor. Very small adjustments, and I think it's mainly in software that the differences have been. So I think that's probably what the big change is going to be. I don't think we're going to get new sensors, if I'm honest. Maybe they've got uprated temperature sensors that can actually tell you your temperature as opposed to trends and things. That would be great. Blood glucose, we've not heard any rumours on this year, so I don't think that's... I think that's still 3 or 4 years out, if I'm honest. Non-invasive blood glucose monitoring. And I would love it to be... it would put people like Libra, Abbott's and Dexcom and those kind of guys out of business if that's what happened. Because especially the people that are currently using those Libra blood glucose sensors that are continuous but invasive, companies like Zoe, and there's a couple of others that kind of rebrand them as like a health, like a wellness kind of thing, so you can track how food affects you. They would probably not really sell much, because I think these things are about $50 a pop and they last for a couple of weeks. Whereas if you've got an Apple Watch that costs you $400, but you can wear it for the next 4 or 5 years, hey, much better. And you don't need to be that accurate if you're just sort of tracking how food affects you. So yeah, that would be my thought. I think, yeah, it's probably going to be the just the processor bump is going to be the main thing this year. I would guess they'll add some software features, but I don't think there's going to be a huge amount. We've got some nice new faces. I've been using the Snoopy face on mine because I've been using the new watchOS, which has been great. I've enjoyed it. Let's see what else we've got over here. So Thomas has said, I hope Apple doesn't jump on the foldable smartphone bandwagon. I'm sure they're looking at foldables, but I don't think there's... Just like with the headset, obviously Vision Pro has been many, many, many years in the making. I don't think the technology is there at scale in order to do the number that Apple would sell if they were to do a foldable. And I don't think there's a compelling use case for it. I don't think Apple would do it unless they found a really interesting thing that you can do with a foldable. I think it is more likely that they go along the lines of doing like a tablet that you could potentially fold in half, and you can fold it halfway and use the one half of it as a keyboard / graphics tablet, iPad style, and then you've got your upright part as well. I think that would be a much better use of the tech. However, then that's a really, really big OLED or whatever the technology would be for that. OLED tends to be the flexible stuff, so I would guess it would be OLED, and that's a hell of a sheet of OLED, given the Retina display quality that Apple wants to have, and the fact that it would be like, I don't know, what would that be? Around about a 25, 26 inch, maybe even a 27 inch display, if you were going to fold it in half and still have like a 13 inch on each side, something like that. Yeah, I'm not quite sure of the math, how that works out, but yeah, something along those lines. Let's see what else we've got here. Folder would be fine if it was durable and doesn't have a crease. But if you're going to make something flexible, it's going to crease. Because when you constantly fold any material, there's nothing that's not going to... If it's something that has to be clear, so it's going to have to be a plastic of some sort, you can't really do foldable glass that's going to be durable enough. It's very, very difficult technology to do in a good way, and I don't think anyone has yet. Even seeing some of the folding phones, like the new ones, in shop displays, like it's not even just where the crease is. I think I was looking at one of the flip phones. You can see the crease in the middle because they had it kind of not fully open on the display stand, so you could see that it was folded. And it made it ripple the whole screen. It doesn't just have a fold and then the rest of it's perfectly flat like a piece of glass. It ripples the whole thing. It looks horrific. I don't like it at all. I mean, I do hope that Apple, if they do it, will do it very, very well. But I just don't know why they would. I don't see the need for these foldables. It's a nice novelty, but I think that's really all it is. It's a technology looking for a problem to solve. Right, let's see what else we've got here. So Thomas is saying at the blob, the hinge is just another failure-prone mechanism that can fail. For me, the current formats for the iPhone are enough. Yeah, I'd agree. And then Michael is saying a foldable with 2 screens would be fine for me. I don't like the potential for damage on the crease. Yeah, I think that's something that Apple has patented in the past, is like a MacBook that uses like a sheet of glass instead of a keyboard, because then that keyboard area can be multifunctional. And if it's got the haptics built in, so you could actually feel like the key presses, something along the lines of Force Touch on a glass keyboard, I think that would be an okay experience. But the palm rejection and the finger rejection, so that it knows where the pressure is, that's got to be pretty tricky to get accurate enough if you're going to be using it as a regular keyboard. Unlike the iPad one, which typically they even let you add a physical keyboard to make it a little bit more usable. So yeah, it's a very tricky sort of path to walk along. But I do think for like artists and things, I think maybe you do a MacBook Studio and you have it as like a canvas on the bottom that also works potentially with I don't know, something that works with Apple Pencil as well. That would be really cool. I will let you know, I've just had a low battery notification on my phone because we're doing this through continuity camera. So we're on 20%. We started on like 32. I think we're going to be fine for a few more minutes. But I am going to wrap this up probably in about 10 minutes time. I was going to wrap it up a bit earlier, but we've got a good chat going now. So let's get through these questions. Foldables are expensive to potentially wind up with an expensive brick. Yeah, I agree. I mean, they are just a little bit damaged, easily damaged. I agree. One new killer feature on Garmin watches was a flashlight on top of the watch. Surprisingly popular. Apple could add that in a future release. That's the sort of thing that I could see coming to like an Ultra, where it's more like outdoorsy and kind of like camping equipment-y kind of feel. That would make a little bit of sense to me. As I say, I will be wrapping this up in about 10 minutes, so if you have got any more questions, just throw them in the chat right now, and we will try and get through everything for you guys. But it's so nice when everyone turns up and we can actually have a chat, because I do enjoy these little lives where we just get through your questions. The blob is saying LG had a rollable design, not sure if it worked. I know they've definitely showcased it, and they've definitely had it on like physical display in trade shows and stuff, but whether it's, again, is it practical? Why is that? I mean, it's better because it's a bit more protected, I guess, when it's rolled up, but yeah, it's just strange. Call it the scroll or something, I don't know. But again, I bet they can't make them in enough bulk. I bet they cannot make enough of these displays for Apple to actually be able to use them, because they need, like, if Apple's doing a new device, like a new phone, they're probably going to need 100 million displays, something like that. Crazy talk. Crazy numbers. Let's see what we have here. How many years until we get a foldy iPhone? I think if we even get one, because I think they may fall out of favour before Apple actually gets around to releasing one. I think it's going to be like at least like 3 or 4 years. I don't see Apple doing it because it just doesn't do anything better. It's that, do you want a fridge toaster? Maybe not. Yeah, we don't necessarily need to just put technology into things for the sake of technology, if it doesn't actually make sense or solve a problem. The blob is saying AR glasses could replace the foldable if they arrive before we die of old age. The full-on AR glasses, unless you are literally talking about something that projects onto the inside of the glass, like a Google Glass, I don't think it's going to work, because your eyes can only focus at a certain distance. So yeah, you can put your pancake lenses and stuff in front of a VR headset, but if you want to put stuff like directly onto the screen, you've either got to use like OLED built into the screens, and then you've got to have like tiny little batteries. So you need a very, very low power chip, which means that you're not going to be able to get that much immersion, but then you're not also having to create the environment. So, I mean, it's possible, but I think it is very much going to be like a light version of what Vision does. I don't see it working that well, because if you want to see anything outdoors, you've basically got to dim the glasses. And I don't see that technology being something that's super practical. 10 years maybe before we get to that point. Something like that. What else have we got here? I think that would work on an AR glasses instead of a folding phone. I just don't think AR glasses are going to be practical. I know there are some out there, but I don't think any of them are great. And I know when Linus was testing some the other day, like, they made him feel sick instantly, which was funny to watch, but I don't think I'd want them. Let's see what else we've got here. What do you think about the new Mac Pro? Basically a Mac Studio with the same performance. In most cases, Mac Pro just a service product for users with a use case for the old PCIe cards. Yeah, basically the Mac Pro, you're paying $3,000 for the opportunity of putting those cards in, and for the people that need them, studios, like recording studios, maybe video editors that need a bunch of ingest cards or want to have more onboard storage. Like, wouldn't it be great if you were a video editor that went to edit on set and you took that with you? You've got all of your storage on board, so you're not connecting to NAS, that kind of thing. That, I think, is where it would make sense. But I don't think, it's a very niche product. It was always a niche product in the first place, and that's not changed. It's become, if anything, more niche because it doesn't have the additional performance, but that's okay because the M2 Ultra is pretty epic already. But I do think it would be great if they would allow additional SoC cards to go into those PCIe slots. That would be a really good thing where perhaps in future that could happen. One of my sound panels just fell off the wall. That was confusing. Wasn't quite sure what was going on. Right, let's see what else we got here. When can we expect an M3 MacBook Air 15-inch? So my guess on this one, this is... I sort of covered this in a video the other week, or the other day. Mark Gurman was saying that he expects the M3 MacBook Air 13-inch to come in October. I don't. So I think what Apple is more likely to do is bring out the 13-inch MacBook Pro, the one with the touch bar, with M3 alongside the iMac with M3, and then wait to update the MacBook Airs a little bit further down the line. Maybe even get rid of the touch bar finally. We can only hope. And then just bring that price down a little bit because it's the older design. Yes, it's got a fan in it and it's got a slightly bigger battery. But is that a premium? Should that be a premium on the product? I don't think it should. So I think if they could release the M3 in that for like $9.99 or maybe just $9.99 would work. That would be really, really good. And then you can still have your MacBook Air as the premium rather than being the base model, which is where it used to sit. I think that would make much more sense. And then they can refresh the 13 and the 15 together and everyone's happy. And then there's actually a reason for people to buy that 13-inch Pro that we have currently. Maybe just throw MagSafe at it. That'd be good. Right then. Let's see what else we got here. Blob is saying, with the M3 chip. I think it is going to be the M3 chip, probably in October, and then I think the MacBook Airs will come with it in the spring, like early-ish spring, maybe even alongside the MacBook Pros, but then MacBook Pros will come alongside the Mac Mini. That might just be too many products. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but that would be my thought. Maybe even like January. You could just drop the MacBook Airs because it would just be the chip bump. You've already done the talk about the chip in October. That would make sense to me. Right, let's see what else we got. How about a camera on the watch, says John Malkin. Absolutely not. You look ridiculous. I don't want to be looking at people up their noses when I'm on FaceTime to them. I don't think that would be a good thing. Wouldn't expect the M3 Air 15-inch for at least a year after the M2. No, I think it's going to be quicker than a year. I think it's going to be like 6 months-ish, something like that, because I think they wanted to bring it in April, didn't have enough stock. Then they did it at Dub, so I think, yeah, early next year. I think it's going to be maybe 6-7 months between the 15 launching and the 15 with an M3 in it. Evan Rogers is saying, how much faster will the A17 be than the A14 or A15? If it goes to 3nm, maybe like 30%, which would be nice. Otherwise, 15 to 18 again, like normal, which 15 to 18 is still decent. Barbenheimer, yay or nay? I haven't watched either of them yet. Don't really get time to go to the cinema. Have watched the new Flash movie now, though. It's okay. There is some very jank CG early on in it, where it just looks like a plastic character running around. Very, very strange. But, yeah, generally, pretty good movie. I enjoyed it. John Malkin is 1nm or 2nm realistic, and will Apple hit a wall with processors? So the size of the process node is all going to be about what TSMC can do, and not really Apple's domain. Although Apple tends to fund the majority of the stuff they need to do those jumps. But I do think after we go past 3nm, it's not going to be a case of going to 2. It's going to be like, is it Armstrongs that they'll measure it in, which is like a different way of measuring, and it just gives a little bit more kind of fine detail in terms of the measurements. But yes, there is going to be a hard limit to how small you can get, because you can't make the gates smaller than an electron or smaller than an atom. So there's definitely going to be a hard stop at some point where you can't really go any smaller. Let's see what else we got. Ron Matson saying, with the apparently low yields of M3 chips, have we reached the point where they will be forced to rely more on making the software more efficient and streamlined? I mean, there's always the option of, once the 3nm chips get a little bit better on the yields, that they can then move on to just doing bigger chunks. However, what we are hearing is that from, I think it's M7 or M8, that Apple is moving to a chiplet style design, so they'll be able to basically mix and match the components, so the CPU and the GPU won't be produced on the same die, but then will go onto the same system package to go into the chips. So that would be along the lines of what AMD has done in the past. I think they have chiplet styles, which basically helps you with your yields on the actual processors, because you're taking smaller chunks which are less likely to have a flaw within that is critical. So that makes sense, hopefully. Yeah, so I think that's where we might be going, is more kind of 3D chips, and the smaller you get the process, the less energy is used, therefore the less heat you have to dissipate. That's all very helpful. The Blob is asked. Oh, did we? Yeah, no, we did. We did Ron's. That's cool. The Blob is asking, I think there is an accessory for the camera on the watch. It was a Kickstarter. The band is massive, though. Yeah, that is one of the issues. But again, why would you want it there? I don't get it. Because even if you do get that band, you can't use it for FaceTime, because the software doesn't exist for the watch, because Apple hasn't made it. Obviously, if Apple put the watches, with a camera in, then yeah, but do you want to do a call like this for a long time? I don't. Now Siri's getting involved because I've raised my wrist. So yeah, it just doesn't actually make sense as a way to do it. It seems like the sort of thing that Samsung or Google might do because they haven't really thought it through, but I don't think Apple would put a camera in the watch, because it just doesn't make actual sense. Michael May is saying fiber optic with a question mark. I'm guessing you mean for like within chips. It's way too small for that, I guess. Software engineers have been spoiled by hardware advances. I mean, not necessarily fiber optic, but I think you could use like photons, like a photonic processor instead of like electrons. That might be a thing. But then you've got to basically scale the sensors that are going to receive these photons. Very, very small. But it does also mean that you don't have to just go binary then. You could actually have different wavelengths of the photons, like different energy levels, which could then... That might be the way that it goes, in fact, because then you've got more options. Like, you can send different types of data through these transistors, like optical transistors, if that's a thing. I'm not 100% sure if it is, but that would be pretty cool. Yeah. Chips and gravy or pizza. I mean, always pizza. I love gravy, especially KFC gravy. That is the only gravy that's good. But yeah, I think definitely pizza for me. Michael Moy, Intel reported earnings yesterday and they're back to being profitable. Well, that's great for them, isn't it? But none of that profit is coming from Apple anymore, which is grand. Not really sure what that means, but they must be moving product again. Yeah, I mean, I think they are, and yeah, they've been working on these ARC graphics cards. Is that still a thing that they're doing? I know they've discontinued the original ones, though. But I guess there's a next generation coming. Hopefully they've not just abandoned it. Linus was saying that they're pretty cool for the right applications, not for everything. Thomas is saying, just posting in the chat, I revived my old MacBook Pro 2013 yesterday with OpenCore Legacy Patcher and updated it to Ventura. It runs fast and powerful again, and I bet pretty toasty. I bet that is not a cold system. Linda is saying pizza and coffee. Absolutely, pizza and coffee for days. And John Malkin, KFC gravy. Big thumbs up. Right, guys, I am going to have to wrap this up, I think, because I'm pretty sure that this camera is going to die and I've got some packing to do. But thank you all for joining us. Do very much appreciate it. I just wanted to throw a little video out there for you. We have shot the unboxing of this bad boy. That is going to be coming when I finish the editing and try and work out a way to make it interesting. But there we go. We did play some games on it. That was kind of fun. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, guys. I will see you in the next one.